All right, so what I want to do today is show you some of the types of properties that will pop up at tax sales and what exactly you should watch out for. So what you're looking at is the website tax-sale.info. And this website is operated by a county known as Title Check. Title Check handles the tax foreclosures and the tax sales for the majority of the states in Michigan. Now, in the state of Michigan, they have two sales. They have the initial sale, which will start off with the opening bids that will be the total of the amount of back due taxes, interest, and fees owed on that property. If those properties don't sell, if nobody bids, they will then go to a no reserve auction, which we'll talk about here momentarily. Now, when you look at a general sampling of real estate in a particular county, you have a few properties, just a small percentage of properties that have problems, or maybe they're useless land, that kind of stuff. When you look at a sampling of a tax sale list, you have a higher concentration of properties that have issues. And when you look at a no reserve list or an over the counter or OTC list, you have an even higher concentration of properties that have issues. Now, what I'm showing you today is their website, because Title Check does a fantastic job of describing these properties, taking photos of these properties, giving you lots of information about these properties. Now, as I talked about in a previous video, you can't rely solely on their information. You can't rely on looking at their photos or their text or their opinions and base your entire investment off that. It just will not work, because sooner or later it's going to burn you. Of course, Title Check, they put all this information there because they're an auction company and they get a buyer's premium. The more money a property sells for, the more money they make. But I'm using their website as a very easy example of the types of properties that will pop up at these OTC sales, at no reserve auction sales, and even at tax sale properties, at tax sale auctions in general. So look at, let's see, let's go to, we'll check Cass County here. Just want to show you, this is, looks like they only have one in there. So that's a bad example. We'll pick another example. Let's look at Clare County and see how many properties they have in Clare County. So right here, right off the bat, we got a landlocked vacant parcel. So you look at this property and this picture loads, and this is just a little tiny strip of land behind this vacant lot right here. Maybe it looks like it was once used as an alley or for utility easement or something. But listen, if you buy that, there's nothing to do with that property. The property has very, very little value to us. You know, if you look at other counties, for example, we have lots and lots of examples we're going through, but let's look at, let's see. Oh, let's look at Berrien County and see what is there. All right, so in Berrien County, we've got this lot right here, 0.04 acres, 12 feet wide. Look at this. I mean, it looks like maybe a sidewalk or something, maybe something that has trees on it. Yeah, it looks like some trees on it, perhaps. I guess you're going from here to here, and there's not much else you can do with it. Now, and the reason I'm using Title Check is because they actually show you maps. Like, you can look at this map right here, and you realize, based on the map they are providing, is a very tiny piece of land. In fact, they'll even give you additional information. It is only 12 feet wide and 170 feet long. Not a whole lot you can do with this. Too small to build, all this good stuff. Now, when you look at a lot of states and a lot of counties that are out there, they don't do that. They're going to give you a parcel number and legal description and say, you go research it. Good luck trying to figure out what it is. So people will look at this. I'll say minimum bid, $100, $38 in taxes. Wow, it looks like a good deal, right? Not necessarily, because you have to do your research. So these are the types of properties that exist on tax sale lists. And the reason I'm shooting this video is so you know what's out there when it comes to things to watch out for. Looks like here's another property. I don't know if it's next door to it or not, but it is really close and very, very similar in shape and size, 0.04. All right, let's go back. Here's another one. I don't know if this was a utility easement or what this was. This is 0.03. This is 5 feet wide between these two properties right here. Again, there's not much you can do with that property. All right, let's scroll down. We've got another, this fire damaged commercial building. This is, obviously this, you kind of see what you get right here, but this is a property that has burned down, and understand that you might be on the hook for hauling all this away if you buy the property. So, you might want to budget for it if you want that property. Let's go back. Let's take a look at another few more counties here. Let's do Genesee County and see what we have in Genesee County to point out to you. All right, former mobile home park. I actually talked about this one previously, this mobile home park, on a different video. Let's look at this one. Vacant parcel with access issues. So you're looking at this property, and you've got this square piece right here, and you can tell there's no road to it. It butts up this guy's house. I'm not even sure why that exists. A lot of times these properties like this, these odd landlocked pieces or the odd shapes or little strips of land, they'll exist because of some sort of survey error, survey issue maybe decades ago, and they get thrown on the tax roll, and here it is, a tax foreclosure, because it's just not worth anything. Now, there's going to be people out there that look at this, and they're going to say, well, you know what? You can't block off a man's access to his land, or there's no such thing as landlocked in my state, or whatever else. I see a lot of people on the internet saying this stuff. And whether that's true or not, you have to realize, you buy this piece of property right here. You can't drive over this man's property to get there because he's going to be pretty upset. Best case scenario is you find yourself in court trying to get an easement to your property. That's going to cost you thousands or tens of thousands of dollars, many, many, many months. And that might go your way. Probably not, but it might go your way. It just depends on the circumstances, right? So understand that, these types of properties, you really don't need to invest in. Could you make it work? Could you force it to work? Could you do something crazy and force an easement on this neighbor right here? Possibly, but why? Why would you force that? Why not go out there and buy any of the other properties that have a lot of value? I'm showing you the properties that have issues right now. I'm showing you the properties that, you probably don't want to purchase. But the fact of the matter is, there's a lot of properties. There's hundreds of thousands of properties every single year that you can invest in, that you should invest in. So why try to make a property like this work when you shouldn't be investing in it? All right, let's keep scrolling down. Here's another example. This property right here is on a highway. Looks like it's on US 23, and DOT won't allow you to access that property. Not that it's big enough to do anything with regardless, but again, this is probably a property that had some sort of survey issue a long time ago, was split off inadvertently, and here it is at a tax sale auction. This is the type of property that you see. Can you get this property and possibly put a billboard on it? Actually, it looks too small for that, but there's sometimes you can put billboards on them if you can pay an adjoining landowner to give you access for a temporary basis. Can you do that? Yeah, possibly. But again, we're trying to force investments. We're trying to force stuff when we don't need to. All right, let's look at some other examples here. And I'm trying just to go through to give you a sampling of what is out there. There's a lot of homes and stuff, and you can probably make some money on these. Let's keep scrolling down here. Don't see too much. Let's see. All right, let's go back and let's take a look at another county. Let's go to Mecosta County. Let's see what's in there. All right, so these are properties in Canadian Lakes, which is an HOA subdivision. You can definitely make money there if you do it right. Oftentimes what you see, though, is the reason there's so many in this subdivision is because the value in relation to the HOA dues just is not there. You may be paying as much in HOA dues over the course of a year or two as the value of the property, so nobody wants to buy it. All right, let's look at Muskegon County and see what we find there. All right, so we've got a few properties in Muskegon. All right, this is an interesting place in Blue Lake Township. So you have this property right here. This is platted, okay? This looks like it was platted for roads, perhaps. So we're going to say these are roads. I don't have let's see if they show the plat map on here, actually. I don't see a plat map on here, but this is platted for roads. These are going to be roads. So you have a legal access, but you do not have physical access. There is no road here. They never built the road. So people are saying, well, I can still get there on my four-wheeler or whatever. No, you can't unless there is a road. You have to, if you want to access this, you would have to put in a road that meets the county's standards, whether they need it to be paved or dirt or whatever else. So you're spending tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars to try to access this property that's, has a value of maybe $1,000 or maybe $3,000 if there even was a road there. So let's go back and let's look at a few more, just to give you a few more examples here. All right, so let's see. Here's another lot. This is a weird looking square behind this gentleman's house right here, right? You can't get to that property. It's just there's not much value there. And again, these types of properties like this are very common at tax sales. Let's look at this one right here. Looks very similar to the last one we had, but you can't get there on this one either, right? Like there's nothing there. Maybe there is an alley here, and people say, okay, well I could buy it, and this is it's kind of odd almost. I get these comments randomly when I show stuff like this, like, well, I can buy it and I can put a fence there, or I can park a car there until the neighbor wants to buy it back from me. Guess what? This neighbor right here, he's probably the one that lost in the tax foreclosure because he knows there is no use, no practical use, no value for this property. So he doesn't even want to pay the $50 per year on it. It's just not worth it to him, right? This guy in this house right here probably owns this little area, right? Like, or he owned it previously, or if he didn't own it, he knows that there's nobody is ever going to build anything there because they aren't allowed to. So don't think that you're going to buy a lot like this guy's, this side yard right here, and hold it hostage from this guy that lives in this house, because guess what? He doesn't care, and it's not going to work. And if you think you're going to go and make his life miserable, just think again, because he doesn't care. Again, he probably knows well about this because there's a sign right there by his house, and he would have bought it if he wanted it. So don't think it's a way to blackmail people or anything like that. It just doesn't work out that easy. And again, you're trying to force investments, and there's no reason to force investments when there's lots and lots of properties that you can make a lot of good money on. If we go through this list on the bottom of this list of properties that have already sold, those are very high quality properties. So we're getting to now kind of the leftover scavenger type stuff. So let's take a look at a couple more counties, and then we will wrap this up. I just kind of wanted to show you an example of what exists out there. All right, so we got this little wood frame house in rough condition. Not that bad of a deal in Schoolcraft County. Let's see, Shiawassee. Vacant lot. Okay, so this is a lot that has, and again, I'm just showing you the bad ones here, guys, just so you know what to look for. This is a lot that has interstate frontage, but DOT is not going to let you just put a little driveway right here. It doesn't work like that. So again, you got a property that is a little triangle you can't access, and kind of tough luck, right? So it's landlocked. So let's keep going. Let's look at a couple more counties. Let's do Tuscola County real quick, and we'll go to Van Buren and call it good. So Tuscola is pretty good. 2 obsolete buildings. You kind of know what you're getting with that one there. And 2-story home on Main Street. Not a bad deal. Van Buren looks like the last county we got. We've got a side yard right here. This is not all that uncommon. You've got this side yard right here, and there's the sign. So you've got this guy parking his trailer there. You get a little side yard that's not big enough to build on, and not big enough to do much of anything with. It actually looks like it might, if we go back to these photos real quick, looks like it might front this road a little bit. You got a little tiny piece right there you could probably walk on. You won't be able to drive a car or anything on it, but you got the little corner you could walk on. But again, this guy in this house, he's probably the one that stopped paying taxes. Or if he didn't stop paying taxes, he probably knows all about this and doesn't care. It's not worth the money to him. He knows nobody can build on it. He knows that nobody can use that property. So it's not something you want to get involved in. Again, don't try to force investments. There's plenty of good properties out there. Then the last one, let's see, we got this property. It's 0.20 acres. And look, it's one of these properties that is has legal access, but it does not have physical access. The road was never put in there. And again, if you want to put that road in there, you got to meet the county standards, which will cost you a lot more money than you would have, than this property is worth in the long run. So there you have it. There are a lot of there's a lot of ideas we just went through when it comes to the red flags to search for and properties that you want to skip. Obviously, again, I went through the properties that just have issues. There's a lot of properties on that list and on every list that can be very, very profitable, but make sure you do your research. And again, the reason I used TitleCheck's website, the tax-sale.info website, is because they provide information. They provide little descriptions and photos and that kind of stuff, which makes it very, very easy to demonstrate the type of junk properties that exist on tax list. Most counties, most states will not be anywhere as forthcoming as they are. They're going to give you a legal description, and they're going to give you a parcel number and say, go figure it out. It is on you. So when you come across those little tiny strips of land or little triangles or the landlocked stuff, hopefully you are much more aware those types of properties exist. You don't put your blinders on and buy it anyhow. So hopefully this helps, guys. For more information on tax sale investing, make sure you check out our community, taxsalehq.com. We have a whole community full of super supportive investors. I go live in there every single week doing workshops and Q&A trainings. And I'm more than happy to help you on your journey to become a successful tax sale investor. So again, make sure you check us out at taxsalehq.com. Take care, folks. Bye-bye.